Welcome to On Democracy with FP Wellman. I am Fred Wellman, your host. My God, another exciting week in America, mostly focused on the judicial system and the failures of that, as well as the craziness. As we speak, a massive hurricane, of course, came ashore in Florida, which has forced Ron DeSantis to go back to the state. He nominally governs, pretend he's the governor for a few days. Also, at the horrible shooting, which I'm sure we'll talk about, his welcome home has been anything but welcome. It's just a lot to talk about this week. So, let's just get right to it. Welcome. As I said before, I am Fred Wellman, the host of On Democracy, FP Wellman. Welcome to the show. You're in the right place. If you're in the wrong place, that's cool. Just stay. You'll enjoy it, I promise. Anyway, Donald Trump's campaign announced they raised over $9 million since his mugshot came out. Okay, which is really something. At the same time, Morning Consult just released their weekly poll and shows Republican voters have actually solidified in their belief that Trump is the only person that could beat Joe Biden now. They found that 62% of Republican potential primary voters believe that he is the best chance they've got to beat Joe Biden. That's up 9% since they last asked that question. It's the highest they've had since they started asking that question back in April of this year. Now, sadly, just 13% felt that Ron DeSantis could beat him, and surprisingly, since a lot of people thought he would be rising, Vivek Ramaswamy has actually fallen 4 points, and he's doesn't pay just to be the nutter of the week, which we will talk about. Just all this goes to show the Republican Party has absolutely lost their minds. I've got just the guest to discuss that. So we welcome Rex Huppke's national opinion columnist at USA Today, where he occasionally writes mildly amusing columns in the news of the day. Before joining USA Today, he was with Chicago Tribune for an eternally long time of 19 years. Huppke started his working life as a chemical engineer. Before I wanted to mention, I don't usually read the whole bio, Rex, but you went to the University of Missouri, and we're shooting from St. Louis. So, it's our, go Mizzou, M-I-Z. One of Rex's greatest contributions to civil discourse and the good of the nation is his annual Insult-a-Columnist drive for local food banks across the country. I'm a proud member of Team Rex Steaks for 2 years running. We appreciate you, bro. I'm sure we'll talk about that later. Man, welcome to the show. It's so good to have you on here finally.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you so much.
Been giving you hell for a couple of 3 years now, so it's good.
I know. Yeah, this is years in the making. That's good.
It is. It's finally happened. Let's just roll right into that first one, right? Trump indictment, mugshot, all the stupid commentary around that, right? They're literally trying to convince us a guy with 91 felony charges in 4 jurisdictions and a mugshot now is the best chance of winning the election. This is a country we have a history of guys falling out of presidential races from weird screams and bad pictures and tanks. I mean, isn't this all insane?
It is. And I don't know how you feel, but I should be used to it by now. Yeah. Like I should be numb to this, but I'm not, man. When I saw the mugshot stuff, I was like, and we knew it was going to happen, right? We knew immediately, even before, weeks before it happened, he's going to market this. He's going to make money off it.
Right.
But still, to see people making the argument that, now he's got it. Take that, libs. Like, you just made him, unstoppable. And I'm like, what are we doing, man? I mean, it's 91. I mean, these are serious. 91. They're state, they're federal. A lot of it is stuff where we've seen a lot of the evidence against him.
Yeah.
And look, everybody's innocent until proven guilty, blah, blah. But you can't find somebody who doesn't have the 91.
Well, that's the weird thing,
like 50,
right?
Maybe.
Yeah, and the way they're spinning it is just so mind-boggling. I think Jesse Waters, talk about, I talked to my garbage man, and he's black.
Like they can't even. They can't. Their racism has become so reflexive at this point that they don't even really make an effort to try to hide it or anything. Yeah, the Jesse Waters thing was, I talked to my garbage man, and who we now have to assume is black because that's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And, he said he's buying mugshot T-shirts for his whole family. I'm like, oh, shut up, man. I mean, come on. And there's a bunch of, I've seen that so many times now from various, everything from, sort of Fox News, your quote unquote mainstream pundits there to just far right complete nutters, babbling on about how, now he's now huge in the black community because of this. It's like, that's offensive on more levels than I can count. Yeah. And also just nonsense. I mean, it's just utter nonsense.
Right. It's not based on any fact. And they try to spin, they're trying to spin some poll on Fox where it shows that he only got, 6% of the vote in 2020, but a new poll shows him getting 20% of the black support. And the kicker is the poll was literally says, I think the margin of error for black vote, so one of the things, as you know, with polling, often especially the black community in major polls that get all black, the black representation of polls is really low. So the margin of error for that segment of the poll is low. And in that specific poll they're trying to spin, I think the margin of error was plus or minus 9%.
Yeah, almost 10. Yeah.
Which is just insane. It's just the desperation of it, and it just kind of keeps on going. I mean, and on top of that, something I've been talking about as we talk about desperation is the desperation on the Republican side to try and save him now, right? I mean, you've got the House GOP just going crazy. Jim Jordan is going to launch an investigation of Fani Willis, MTG, Biggs, Gates, Ogles, Clyde, all are trying to investigate or defund the various judges, prosecutors, and officers. But I wanted to, did you hear about the Andy Ogles thing he filed 2 weeks ago where he wants to specifically defund paying just Jack Smith? Did you see that one?
Yeah.
But did you read the name? Yeah, I got to read the name. I got to read the name for our listeners.
That's brilliant.
The Andy. It is. I actually did a video about it. Andy Ogles yanking outlays for an unethical, ruthless enterprise that fraudulently impedes robust election debate act, or the You're Fired Act.
Nah, we get it.
Oh my God. I mean,
good job, buddy. You're doing great.
You gotta be fucking kidding me. I read that. I almost ruined my laptop. It's just the ridiculousness of it. And I don't know who they're trying to appeal to. I guess Daddy. They're trying to throw Daddy. I mean, do any of these have any hope?
No, yeah. It's all nonsense. And I mean, there's been stuff written ever since they started proposing these things about, will a government shutdown stop it?
Right.
No, won't. The Justice Department stuff keeps going. The special counsel is already basically funded effectively. So it's just, it's so pathetic. And especially as a liberal type who's always, seen the GOP as the party of law and order,
right?
To see them, I mean, they're trying to defund everything, right? They want to get rid of the FBI, the DOJ. They want to, not pay Jack Smith. They want to undercut all of these prosecutors. Ron DeSantis is like, just tossing elected attorneys in Florida. I mean, it's very bizarre, and it smacks of desperation. I honestly, it's going to appeal to that hardcore base,
right?
Which, is easy. I mean, that's just throw red meat in their direction and, they'll be happy.
Yep.
But I don't think that, the key for Trump is going forward, assuming he winds up being the nominee, is gaining voters. And I just don't see any instance where he's gaining anybody at all. I mean, I think this sort of stuff bothers, the sort of the regular people who are
normies. I call them normies. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Who aren't just like soaking in this stew of weirdness. So.
Right, and I talk about that a lot. My partner in crime, Heather, her parents in their 80s. They're my focus group, and anybody who listens to the show knows about my 80-year-old focus group, which is two 80-year-old people who are just lovely human beings and lifelong Republicans. And while her father is much more embroiled in the Fox News world than her mother. Neither of them are on Twitter, by the way, so I'm sure they missed Donald Trump's interview with Tucker Carlson. And they're normal Americans. They are hardworking. Grew up in Nebraska. These are worked in industry for their entire lives. They're not the types going to go, well, what's 91 felonies? I mean, and the thing is, as we talked about a lot when I was at Lincoln Project for the general, we had to peel off 4 to 6% of his base for him to lose, which happened, right? That's kind of where he lost. I don't see them coming back. Do you see someone coming back at this point?
I don't. And also you have 4 more years of young people entering voting age, which I think is, even if he was to gain a little bit of that back, it's going to get offset pretty quick because, when you have among many other things, you have a debate stage full of Republican candidates all denying climate change and that sort of thing, not to mention the abortion issue. Yeah. You're losing big time among younger voters. So yeah, I mean, It can still. I will never again say that Donald Trump can't get elected.
There's that. Yeah.
I've learned my lesson on that front, but it's a steep hill, that's for sure. And I don't see this farcical idea that the indictments help him I think is nonsense, because there are people who, are going to see that and just be like, oh, it's crazy. And it's honestly, it's such a missed opportunity. I know we've been saying this forever, but if the Republicans just cut him loose, I mean, I realize they have that base that they're going to lose, but they have such an opportunity right now because, like it or not, Biden is, he's gettable, right? If you're the Republican Party and you have a strong candidate, you could certainly put up more than a good fight, I think, against Joe Biden, whether that's, should be the case or shouldn't be the case or whatever, but it's the truth. So if you had like a, normal candidate, basically, who wasn't spewing just weirdo nonsense and getting, mugshots taken every other week or whatever, you probably stand a pretty solid chance.
Yeah.
But the way this is going, nothing's impossible, but they sure are going to make it hard, So.
Well, that's it. And we talk about that a lot is the number of opportunities they've had to cut him loose, right? They had impeachment, there's been opportunity after, and I think for me, I always look at one of those key moments was McCarthy going down to Mar-a-Lago after January 6th, just 3 weeks later, right? It was really sort of and I would love to get the inside story of that someday, what led to that decision per se. It'd be interesting to know. Obviously the hunger for being House Speaker someday, but it was just a weird. That seems like when everybody's like, okay, we got this. I don't know if he made a deal. Have you ever heard any? I mean, I always point to that as the moment, don't you?
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, that was kind of a bend the knee sort of thing, and that was the impeachments would have been great, but absent the impeachments.
I love peaches.
Yes, you could have, post January 6th, really at any point in that general ballpark, you could have jumped ship pretty damn quick, and you would have been on good footing, and you would have had time to recover that base. I mean, now I kind of get it. Like now, if they boot Trump for some reason, which they're not going to do, but if they did, hypothetically, you're losing 20%, maybe 30% even possibly of your base. Yeah. It's just going to be totally disincentivized. And that's a problem. If they'd done it back then, though, I think they would have had some time to recover. They could have focused more on Biden and had less of the Trump shenanigans to deal with. So, yeah, I don't get it. And I feel like, someday maybe we'll learn the backstory, or it may just be naked opportunism. They have this base hooked and they want to just keep pulling in money. They want to keep, them riled up and have that not suffer the pain of having to kind of separate from that base. I don't know, but I think you're spot on though. That was a moment where you were just like, okay, they're sticking with him. Here we go.
And I think I think we ignore the money aspect way too much. There is money to be made into being in the far right, the MAGA chud world. I mean, look, he made allegedly $9.4 million in about 4 days. By talking about his mugshot, right there, you look at Marjorie Taylor Greene, you look at the others, then you look about the right wing extremism ecosphere, the Charlie Kirks, and there's money to be made in that world, and I think it drives a lot of this, but it's not all the inches, right? It is, and then there's the fear factor. I've actually heard that from electeds who talk to their Republican peers, and they're like, look, dude, I can't, not just, and it used to be like, oh, well, I'll get primaried. I honestly think there's a no shit fear factor. Like they're afraid.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because we've seen.
No, I mean, I haven't. It hasn't quieted me down at all. But fairly early on in the Trump era, the vitriol and the number of threats that I got, that sort of stuff, went like just through the roof.
Right.
And again, it didn't stop me, but it's in your head. You think about it. I'm not going to lie to you. You definitely you have that moment where you're like, well, do I want to say this? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to say it, but yikes, you say it, you know what's coming. So and that's for me and, relative nobody. So, I mean, when you're a politician and people, really, you got people in your district, you've got, that sort of thing. Yeah, I believe that the actual fear, like physical fear, is a legit part of it, as well as just the money, the opportunism, the getting primaried, all that.
Yeah, and it takes away, and we will keep laughing because, It's funny. Sometimes I've had people criticize the show because, oh yeah, you guys laugh about these very serious things. Like, look, one of the funniest jokes, the funniest laughs I ever had was when I got shot at in combat the first time. It's just you got to laugh at some point because we're all going to lose our minds. I mean, some of us and like you said, I came out very strongly against Trump early on, right after the POW comment about John McCain, and I went very public. Matter of fact, it popped as one of my Facebook memories not too long ago. Like when I really went like, okay, I can't keep my silence anymore. And I got to tell you, I paid a price professionally I had a business then that was focused on veterans issues, and these nonprofits were scared.
Yeah.
Because access is everything, right? They didn't want to miss a chance to get into the White House and see. And I joke about the Easter egg roll tickets. I mean, it really was weird. It was a very weird time, and it hurt my business very much. And then, of course, with Lincoln Project, there was a period, and I don't talk about it much. There was a period where, I installed cameras at every freaking door and inside because of the threats I was getting, like my address being published. Yeah. There was a time I lived right in the main street in Richmond, Virginia at the time, and like you could stand on the sidewalk and hi, and I was literally packing heat inside my house, which is the craziest thing. But that's where we work. But so I get it. And on that note, what of your columns? I say you were writing for 19 years. Now you're at USA Today. You've been to which column set the most off? Like, I'm just curious. It's a curiosity question. Off topic. Which of your columns? I mean, I'm sure there's one that like really sent things into the stratosphere.
Well, actually, the thing that caused the most problems for me was one where I mentioned Alex Jones.
Okay.
The audacity. So I was writing about, if I remember right, this is a while ago, but if I remember right, it was Donald Trump Jr. made some awful comment about transgender kids.
Right.
And this was during the campaign in 2016. And I said, and I wrote a thing being like, look, you can't, the son of a presidential candidate saying this kind of crap this is beyond the pale. Like, this is just disgusting, and this is like Alex Jones paranoia. I got some reference to Alex Jones in there. So the column, I got a lot of blowback from Alex Jones enthusiasts, but then he read the column on his show, and then he had his producer email me to see if I would come on the show. And being a not bright person, I responded. I was never going to go on the show, but I responded very much. I basically said something like, no, never, not in a million years, not if he was the last person on earth, or and if I have to go now because I'm doing a deep investigation into like fluoride turning frogs gay or something like that. I read this real like snarky response back, and that set him off. So then he spent, I'm not joking, a half hour on his show going after me. And that unleashed the hounds of hell. I mean, Jesus. I have never gotten with threats just in every direction. Like, it was absolutely horrible. So that's probably the one that caused me the most problems. I mean, the Trump stuff, it always, triggers a certain number of people.
Right.
But that one, man,
wow. It's wild to be in the middle of it. I've had a couple of those instances, like when Don Jr. Retweeted me, or a couple others, and you're like, okay, this is great. You're like, okay, this is fun. You're getting every social platform you're getting threats on. Like, this is fun. And it's kind of funny because people come at me a lot even now and will say, oh, you don't know what it's like. I'm like, oh, sure. I mean, did you have your daughter's pictures plastered across Twitter and, with memes about your kids? I was like, yeah, trust me. I am well aware of what we face. I've had personal experience with it, and people, but I also tell people the wonderful thing about these people or these folks is they get disinterested. They move on to the next target pretty quick, right? It's like, they just can't keep, it's all ADHD, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It burns out fast. It burns out real fast. That's for sure. And going back to what you said about laughing about things, I mean, one of the reasons that I oftentimes use a lot of satire in what I write about this sort of stuff is because, frankly, it deserves to be ridiculed. It deserves to be lampooned and made fun of.
Right.
And that drives. I mean, that's part of the reason that I think I dealt with a lot of blowback, is because it really pisses people off when you are not just writing critically about something that Trump did or the Trump supporters are doing or whatever, but you're actually making fun of them.
Right.
Then they really get burned. So,
yeah.
But tough luck. I mean, Trump is I will never apologize for, ridiculing someone who has just made a mockery of our democracy and actually tried to, overturn our debate. So I think that I always say, I started saying, and somebody, I can't take credit for this. Somebody else might have used this before I did, but I said, make stupidity embarrassing again. Because that, to me, that's a big part of the problem. Like, you see people stand up and say things that are utterly inane, like just not like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Vivek Ramaswamy, for that matter, during the debate at times, and just stuff that's just patently false. It's just nonsense. And I'm like, you should feel embarrassed, right? There was a time when being dumb publicly was embarrassing, right? When you said something
potato
so
or
stupid.
Potato, right?
Right. The people are like, well, that's just, what's wrong with you? That's embarrassing. And we've just lost that. And I will certainly do everything I can to bring it back, because I think that is a powerful tool. It's hard nowadays to make anybody feel bad about that, because they're so narcissistic and they've lost sort of any sense of, integrity or shame or whatever. But we keep trying.
Well, that's it. And we know it makes them crazy. I mean, look, the oldest rule in the world is the way to get to a bully is to mock them. The whole point of a bully is to feel, like they're stronger, they're tougher. And you can yell at them all day. You can try and be tougher. But in the end, if you just laugh at them, again, going back to my experience with LP, people always tell me, well, you don't understand what the secret LP was. Like, yeah, I do. The secret was we mocked the guy and made him freaking crazy. And that's where that special gift of Rick Wilson, especially, is that he's very good at getting inside that bully head. And DeSantis is the same way. Look at DeSantis. Look how DeSantis reacts to being mocked. It makes him insane. I know for a fact that every time we run a meme of him in his little cute white boots, it makes him just absolutely nuts. And I'll never get that. I guess this is a great place for a break. Let's take a quick sponsor break. We have a couple our friends at BetterHelp and Sugar and Spruce joined us this week. So let's hear from them. This episode of On Democracy is sponsored by our friends at BetterHelp. And you tell you what, it's the end of summer and life is picking up speed with school starting, election season beginning, and the sudden rush of the holidays is right around the corner. It's so easy to get caught up in what everyone else needs from you this time of year and never take a moment to think about yourself and what you need. I've always struggled this time of year. I'm not going to lie to you. It's the anniversary of some terrible losses in history. I'm a combat veteran. It's a changing season. So it's a tough time of year, even for guys like me. Because so many of us spend so much of our time working hard to keep up and giving to others, this time of year can leave you feeling frazzled, stretched thin, and burned out. I've found for years now that therapy can give you the tools to find more balance in your life, so you can keep supporting others without leaving yourself behind. In my own life, I've been fortunate to find therapy as helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries and generally how to become the best version of yourself. Now, I want you to know that therapy isn't just for those who've experienced life difficulties or challenges. It is for everyone, because what you're going through every day, it matters. If you're thinking of starting therapy, I highly recommend you give BetterHelp a try. Now, it's entirely online, designed to be convenient. It's flexible and suited your schedule. I started my own therapy journey online, and it changed my life. With BetterHelp, you just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapy, and you can actually switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Find more balance with BetterHelp. So visit betterhelp.com/Fred today, and you'll get 10% off your very first month on BetterHelp. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Fred. Give it a try today. And again, thank you, BetterHelp, for being part of the On Democracy family. This may shock you, but I'm a bit of a fan of good quality bath and body products. So I'm excited to introduce you to Sugar and Spruce. It's a woman and family owned and operated small business. It's all about making your bath time routine feel like a treat. At Sugar and Spruce, they believe that indulgence and self-care can go hand in hand. That's why they craft their products with the philosophy of fun, all while keeping them oh so good for you. It's all about finding the perfect balance, like a foam party for your senses, without any harsh chemicals or nasty preservatives. And guess what? They've got a little something for everyone under their umbrella. That's right, ladies, gentlemen, even the little ones can enjoy the magic of Sugar and Spruce bath products. It's a bath time extravaganza for the whole family. So, look, whether you're a bath aficionado, a bubble enthusiast, or just someone who wants to add a sprinkle of joy to your day and have a great start, Sugar and Spruce has you covered. They got bath bombs that sizzle, bath salts that transport you to a serene oasis, and handcrafted traditional soap, which I just love, to make your skin feel fresh and clean, as well as a line of products just for men. Support a women and family-owned business. A family, you might even recognize the name when you check it out. And treat yourself to some blissful bubbles today. Now, head over to their website today at sugarandspruce.com and give yourself the gift of indulgence by entering the code FRED, and you'll get 20% off your first order. That's right. If you shop online and use code FRED at checkout, you'll get a whopping 20% off your first order of handmade bath and body products straight from Fredericksburg, Virginia. That's Sugar and Spruce, SPRUCE.com. Sugar Spruce bath products, where the everyday routines become extraordinary treats. And we're back, and I'd like to pull that thread. You mentioned the name, the loony of the week, Vivek Ramaswamy. He really, his debate performance, and he's really interesting to me. It's kind of like RFK, by the way, in which I actually made a joke that kind of went viral the other day that, you notice we're hardly hearing about RFK Jr. anymore because he's been out loonied, and so now Fox is like, oh, we got a new one. But he's that classic gaslighter. And if you've ever, I don't know if you've ever been to like a crypto conference or one of these fintech conferences or any kind of entrepreneur conference, you see these guys on stage and they're talking fast about their incredible, we're going to, they get all the buzzwords, we're going to re-energize and rebuild industry, and it's all just a string of bullshit, and it's so convincing. And the stuff he says, and it's climate change is a hoax. I'm not bought. It's just crazy. And then the guy is a unique character. What is he though? I know you kind of wailed on him a little bit too.
He's slick. He is like. There was a column, I think it was in the Washington Post maybe the other day, comparing him to the Music Man.
Yes.
Yes. Selling great. Trouble with a capital T and it rhymes with P and that stands for cool. It's that patter. He has like that. It's like, I think crypto's he's like a crypto dude patter that is like where he just overwhelms people, I think. And he's, he seems lively, he's energetic. He seems like he acts like he knows exactly what he's saying. And you see these interviews too, where like he gets caught, denying something he said. And they're like, well, no, we have the audio. And he's like, no, that's not, they misinterpreted. Like he's Trump-like in his ability to just BS his way through anything. Like, there is no fact that's going to get in his way. And that's tragically what a lot of the base wants right now, I think, because I think that's why they responded so well to him. Yeah. So he is right now. He's sort of Trump without the indictments or the name recognition, basically. But he's pulling off. And I saw yesterday, I think there was an interview where Trump was praising him. Yeah. Although I think it was Axios that had that said, Trump, it was basically suggesting like Trump would consider Ramaswamy for a VP spot. But the quote actually said something like, oh, he'll definitely be good at something. I don't see Trump taking somebody who could potentially overshadow him. Yeah. B, I don't know exactly where the evangelicals are going to go with Vivek. Personally, I think that's an issue that'll become more focused on if he continues to rise in the polls. Although he may not. He may also just peter out here, and DeSantis will be back at his tough 17% or whatever.
He's definitely the flavor of the week with Fox. But it's interesting seeing Hannity. Hannity was kind of wailing on him, yesterday. He was like, literally is not what you said. Oh no, that's the mainstream media misinterpreted. Like, dude, literally these are your words. It's just I was surprised.
I wonder if that was a Trump missive to try to knock him down a notch or something.
Yeah, without him doing it. And I think there's a pattern though, Rex. I really do. I think there's a pattern where you'll see people who are coming up. DeSantis, that'd be an interesting one I'll have to look at. Is maybe you can't because you're a professional at this, but what is the arc of the attack, right? At first it's the surrogates like Hannity and others will start kind of bubbling, and then eventually he'll be Ramaswamy or Smarmy or whatever. There's an arc to it. DeSantis was getting knocked by people other than Trump before Trump rolled in with Meatball Ron. It's just a matter of time when he starts getting double. If he ever gets to 20%, here come the nicknames and he's done.
Yeah, yeah. Although I don't see how what did he call during the debate? He called Trump the greatest president of the 21st century, whatever, or something.
Yeah.
I'm like,
all three of them.
right, yeah. I'm also like, what are you vying for here, buddy? Like, I mean, just that maybe that I don't know.
Something in the finance. My gut, honestly, because he is all about making money, is something in the financial world. FTC. Who knows what he wants. Treasury. But again, and then DeSantis. DeSantis came out of that debate looking like a complete chucklehead, with the smile thing. And I mean, he just, the guy can't help not making himself a meme of himself every time. And then of course the tragic, and we cannot joke about that the shooting in Jacksonville. I've got family in Jacksonville. I love Jacksonville, Florida. Just a horrible, horrible shooting. And so now he's returned to his state now we've got a hurricane blowing through right now. And it just seems miserable to be there. And he was welcomed with open arms. I don't know you've seen some of the memes, I mean, holy cow. I mean, it's just hatred. Did you see Casey speaking in South Carolina, though?
Yeah, I did. And I don't know what it's like because she spent what I saw. I can't remember how long it was. It was a good 4 or 5 minutes talking about their kids.
Yeah.
And how annoying their kids.
Yeah. Yeah. They draw on the walls the governor's mansion. Like, that's definitely what I'm looking for.
My kids, they suck. Platform. What the? It's so
off-putting, and they're so off. And that's her desperate attempt to see human to him. And what's weird too is she was the TV personality. I mean, in theory,
she's got I think I don't understand why she talks about the stuff she talks about, but I mean, delivery wise and affability wise, she's a million times better than he is, which isn't necessarily saying much, but she's certainly a much smoother communicator and more natural communicator. But every time I hear her talk, she's talking about these kind of inane things which are clearly trying to humanize him, but not do it. Right. I just don't know I'm still convinced that it's all a bunch of Trump plants that are advising them, because I could, as a liberal, I could go in and advise them better than anybody else.
I swear to God, I've said almost the exact same thing. It's just so bad.
That would just be because I feel sorry, but I have some empathy. I'd be like, oh, maybe don't do that.
Well, what's funny too is the Never Back Down PAC leaked all their stuff on Jeff Rowe's website, and that's why I think it was a leak. By the way, if it was meant to be seen, it would have come from the PAC's website, but it ended up on Axiom Strategy's website in their news section, which is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. And then a lot of us mocked just how bad their suggestions were. By the way, their strategy: slam Vivek and do this, do that, and he didn't do any of that. But shit, man, he should have at least done. I mean, his actual strategy was even worse than the bad strategy that Jeff Rowe floated out on the internet. I don't know what his strategy was at that damn thing. Do you?
Yeah, because he just basically disappeared.
Yeah.
And there was nothing. There were stretches of that where I was just like, oh yeah, fair around it, because I thought he'd either they'd coach him up well enough that he'd actually come out quasi-strong. I don't think he's capable of being particularly good, but I thought he could pull off a solid performance if he was coached well enough. But no, he just sort of vanished. And then when he did talk, it was the same crap. And and then he's so squirmy and I mean, I grew up in Florida, so I've paid attention to him, since before the presidential stuff really even became a thing. And I've always said, oh God, you put this guy on a national stage, people are going to hate him. I mean, he's so unlikable. He's so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And politics aside, obviously I can't stand his politics in any way, shape or form, but setting all that aside, just person. I mean, look, we had, John Kerry was a terrible, he was just not personable. Yeah. He was aloof and, that sort of thing. Some candidates just don't have it, and boy, does he not have it. And it's just gotten worse. Really, I mean, he's just melted and under the spot. So.
And somebody predicted it. That's sad. So sad. Yeah. Somebody predicted it. We had Michael Steele on the show last year, and he said, and then RNC chairman, and of course I'm friends with Rick Wilson, and anybody who's followed him, like you, it's so often I hear people who've followed Florida politics, followed him, say, oh no, he's toast. The minute he comes out, because many things you need. First of all, you need a bigger campaign staff. I mean, the fact that you fired a person who actually has run a campaign and hired his chief of staff, who's never run a political campaign to be a presidential campaign. I mean, that one kind of got blown off in the news cycle, but he literally put a guy in charge of the literally peak of a professional campaign advisor person, anybody, the peak of their career is the presidential campaign. And he literally put some dude who he just has to be his chief of staff in charge of an entire presidential campaign. And it's just, and that was what Michael Steele was saying, is that he's got a very, very small circle. It's Casey, it's Christina Pushaw, it's a couple others. And to obviously run a successful presidential campaign, you got to expand your circle. And they predicted it then that he would, and here we are. And he did exactly what everyone predicted, which is weird because you think they'd at least read that. No, but you're right. He just doesn't seem capable of really changing in any way. He's, like you said, people's like, it's like, what is it? Men in Black, he's wearing a human suit, I don't know what.
There's a real arrogance about him and about that whole campaign.
Yeah.
They clearly are not taking anybody's advice. They are not accepting, that things aren't going well, where their flaws are, and all that kind of stuff. And even just, just the initial plan, which clearly was to be worse than Donald Trump, meaner than Donald Trump, more cruel than Donald Trump. Why would you do that? That just makes no sense at all. Even if you harbor those desires, you campaign in a different place and create a lane for yourself. And then if you want to turn into a meanie later, then fine. But, that's just a weird choice. Anybody who thinks they can be the next Trump there isn't a next Trump. He is a very unique figure.
Yes. Yep. We said a lot here on the show about how, and I think every week I say it, Matt probably should tell me not to say this anymore, but we've had a couple of guests who've said, he reminds him a lot of the old Catskills comedians. I think one of our guests, said Trump, he knows how to read a crowd. I saw an interview with Mel Brooks recently in his younger days. And Mel Brooks tells a story when, he started out, he was doing that comedian, the stand-up act at the nightclubs in the Catskills, the old days, the insult comic routes. And it made him a better comedian because he was very good. He could read the crowd. If a joke didn't land, you knew it right away. And in many ways, that's Trump. Trump can read a crowd and say, okay, that worked and that doesn't work. And he tests stuff out. Jeff Charlotte is an author of a book called, I don't think I have it up here, unfortunately. Jeff Charlotte called The Undertow, about the slow Civil War. And he attended a bunch of Trump rallies. And he talks about how having attended so many, and he stays in the crowd. He doesn't go to the media section. And he can see how Trump is testing lines. And if it doesn't work, you don't see it the next rally. He changes it. And Ron DeSantis isn't like, most of the politicians aren't like that. They've, like you said, they recruit, they rehearse, they have their lines. Everybody up there was spitting out lines. Maybe Chris Christie probably is the one who flexes the most, but they had all, I've done debate prep for candidates. Those attack lines are actually written, they really are. Here's your attack line. Use it then, and a good candidate can do well. My friend Marcus Flowers did a great job with Marjorie Taylor Greene of, we said, just punch her early, and he got her in the very first question. And, but DeSantis didn't do any of that. He didn't scuffle. He didn't, he just never got off his talking points. And it's kind of that the weird talking point, though, that I found the most striking and is actually disturbing and takes us to a more serious topic is that story of the fetus in a pan, the woman who survived abortions. And I don't know if you saw the story. Jezebel did a story, I think, this week where they really went into it. That actually the truth was it was a coat hanger abortion. This woman's from the 1950s. Her father was the first one to try and stop the birth of her mother. It's actually a tale of why abortion should be legal, safe, and accessible.
That was so bizarre. And that just, again, that was one of those things that just sort of threw everybody, the pan and just the way it was described is you're like, what the hell are you talking about? Right. Like nobody, it was not a broadly familiar enough story for anybody to get it. And it almost didn't sound quite believable.
Yeah.
Probably because it's a thing that happened one time, 50 plus years ago, it's just, it was bizarre. And, of course, then it sets up for, the
fact check.
Right. And people, the story, which, as you said, it just is making
It was dismantled
the case that he wants to make. I don't think so.
Yeah, it was weird, and I don't know if he's told that story before, but it was such a failure. But we go into the seriousness of things, right? The hate crimes are rising, diversifying. It feels like, I had Michael Harriot in the show a few weeks ago, and I said that it was, and Michael Harriot by the way, folks, if you're not reading his stuff at the Grio or anywhere, you're really making a mistake. But Michael, I said, I felt like this was the last gasp efforts, this violence and the Civil War threats of white majority rule. And man, I got to tell you, Rex, he straightened my ass out. I mean, he came at me. He's like, no, we said that in 1866. We said it in 1910. We said it in the 1960s. It's the last gasp. It's never been the last gasp, Fred. And he basically put me in my place. Like, that's people like you think that, but people look like me know better, And how do you? I mean, and you've had the threats. You have a national perch now. You've been writing for 20 years. How do you see this moment? I mean, it feels like a very, very dangerous moment. I mean, where's your head on this?
Yeah, this is the thing. So the obviously the rise in hate crimes. It seems that that's
you can't ignore it. It's real.
Too. Like, I mean, we should. Anybody who thinks there's a mystery as to why it's happening is not paying attention.
Right.
And I think the blame should go squarely on the people who are riling up the often unstable people who have the potential to do those sorts of things.
Yeah.
The thing that I think is, the Civil War talk, I kind of get a kick. Who was it? Steve Deese, that Iowa. I don't know if he's actually a pastor, but he's like a right wing.
Yeah. He has a radio show, doesn't he?
Yeah. And I was super influential in Iowa. Yeah. The other day he tweeted Civil War. And I'm like, you know what? Guess what, buddy? I mean, and you served in the military. I mean, like, good luck with a bunch of Billy Bobs out there, and then a military that can go boop on a drone, and I mean, it's just, the whole thing is preposterous, right?
Right.
It doesn't mean it's not concerning, but it's preposterous. Right. And the thing that I always think about, I was real involved when I was with the Associated Press in Indiana. I covered the execution of Timothy McVeigh.
Oh wow!
In Terre Haute. And so in the lead up to that, I wrote a ton. I was like knee deep in the whole Oklahoma City bombing, everything that had happened and the militia movement that led to it and that sort of stuff. And the thing that I think should be troubling, I mean, any hate crime is, of course, troubling on its own.
Yeah.
But, the biggest fear we have outside of like the Civil War talk and stuff is just a lone wolf, because that's what McVeigh was. I mean, right. The militias were on the radar big time, but nobody saw McVeigh really. I mean, he was maybe known as a little sort of off figure that whatever, he blipped somewhere, but nothing serious. So, I mean, I think that, you don't need a civil war, right? You need one completely out of their mind person, who, again, like McVeigh, is capable of actually doing something like horrible, like what he did. And that's, that's where I think the fear should be. The Civil War talk is almost a distraction from the fact that you have an entire political party that is basically fomenting distrust in the government. Yeah. Is creating division along racial lines, obviously. And just, creating a awful situation right now.
It's an environment. It's like somebody released gas, and all it takes is a strike of a match. Yeah. I was following a story yesterday. I don't know if you saw this story this week in Oklahoma, where a librarian did a funny TikTok of her. Oh my God, did you see that? Yeah. She dances in, says, "Oh, here's me getting ready to do my woke agenda." Ha ha ha. Gets picked up, of course, by libs of TikTok, and then the actual head of education of the state of Oklahoma reposts it. And they've had to shut down schools all week because bomb threats across Oklahoma City or Tulsa, I think it was, just insanity. And it's just insane. And I'll tell you something, and I am an Iraq veteran. I did 3 combat tours, and I was there at the very beginning when the war started. I was part of the invasion in 2003 at the 101st Airborne. I was there when the first bomb started going off. I was there the first time my base got rocketed. I'm literally talking to my wife at the time on the phone, and I hear the rockets that were marching in. There was the first time they used them, so they were trying to find out where we were. And I'm literally talking to my wife, like, gotta go. She's like, well, we were actually fighting, believe it or not, but we're divorced now, go figure. And we were fighting, and she's like, I said, look, I gotta go. She's like, oh, you don't want to talk? No, I gotta go hide because we're being rocketed, So I've been there, sorry, I gotta go hide under my desk because I'm about to get freaking bombed. But I saw it develop, and you're right. The thing I think a lot of people make the mistake of thinking is that a civil war will look like 1861, and it will not. No states are going to secede. What it is going to look like Iraq in 2003, 2004, where a couple people started grabbing guns and decided to take matters in their own hands, and essentially an insurgency. You can call it what you want. The difference between an insurgency and a civil war is how you define the insurgent, in my humble opinion, and their goals. I think that's what we should really be afraid of, is an insurgency. And what scares me is the inability of our government to actually investigate those insurgents, because the Republican Party stops it. I mean, we literally just had Tommy Tuberville say, "Oh, there's no white nationalists in the military. I call those Americans." No, we got no shit white nationalists in the military, and they're actually hurting people. When you've got a United States Marine Corps major indicted for January 6th because he pushed a police officer out of the way and opened the door in the Capitol, an active duty United States Marine Corps field grade officer with like 13 years in the military from Quantico Marine Corps Base made his way to the U.S. Capitol and assaulted a police officer. That worries me.
Yeah, it's pretty striking. Yeah, no, I agree, and I just, how we bring the temperature down again, right, because again, it's not like there's a few squawkers out there it's not like an Alex Jones type and a couple others who are causing problems. It is quite literally an entire political party that is, and I realize that's roping in some people who aren't doing anything.
Sure.
Apologies to them, but they're also not doing enough to stand up to the ones who are doing this stuff, right? Like Marjorie Taylor Greene has no business being anywhere where she has any power. No. Who was it you mentioned before? Ogle, I think.
Yeah, Andy Ogles and
yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of people in there who are wreaking havoc on our democracy, basically, in various ways, and they are again sowing distrust, which is a big problem. They are making oftentimes people who already feel helpless feel even more helpless by suggesting that the current administration is completely corrupt and a criminal enterprise and blah, blah, blah. All of these things compound and they create that sort of, secret sauce. So whoever in the Republican Party, and there are certainly some who are still, actual conservatives and believe in things that, that would traditionally believe in and whatnot. I am sorry to lump you in, but you have to take control of that. I can't do it. Nobody else can do it. The party needs to rein itself in because it is creating a very toxic situation that is allowing everything from hate crimes to January 6th to, God knows what else to happen. And it's dangerous. It is real dangerous.
Yeah. A democracy won't survive. And that should scare everybody. And look, I compare it a lot to 1930s. Everybody goes, oh, it's actually the 1920s, right? It's the lead up to 1930s before Hitler took power. What they did was they fomented hatred. They fomented violence in the streets. They had the brown shirts fighting the Bolsheviks in the streets. And they turned around and said, look at this violence. Oh my God, we can solve that. It's like I can't help but hear the echoes and see the echoes today where they're inciting the violence, they're encouraging the violence, and then turn around and say, look at the violence. And you live in Chicago. You live in Chicago. It's a constant subject of Chicago. I live in Missouri. There was a great story today in Bloomberg from my fellow Anita on the show, and talking about how states are actually attacking their own cities now. And here in St. Louis, they're constantly talking about the crime problem in St. Louis. At the same time, taking away all the ways to control guns. So we're flooded with guns. Cutting money to the. It's an assault on the people that live here, and they're using it to foment that violence and then go, oh my God, look at the crime. It is a death loop that can't be worked. Well, I really appreciate this conversation. Now, tell me something. Most important thing I want to know: are you going to do? So those, as I mentioned quickly in the biography, I know I talk fast. So one of the things I love about what you do, Rex, is your annual Insult-a-Columnist. So for those who aren't familiar, for many years, Rex took it upon himself to raise money for a food bank in Chicago, and now he's a national reporter at USA Today. I believe you've taken it national for opportunities. Are you going to be doing that again this year?
That's my plan. Yeah, we haven't actually. It hasn't been formalized yet.
Still
but
actually,
I'm glad you bring that up. I should probably start looking into that.
Get to work.
The Insult-a-Columnist holiday food drive, a tradition like no other.
Yeah.
But that was just, and the whole idea behind that too was a way of like trying to redirect all the hatred and stuff in a way. It's like, hey, look, if you hate me, how about you donate to this food bank and see if we can actually do something good. And I'm like putting it out that way, it's democracy in action, right?
Right.
I mean, if the people that hate me donate, you can donate under Rex Rocks or Rex Stinks. If Rex Stinks wins, then hey, I stink. I'll write a mean column about myself, just try to level things out. But yeah, I was really happy when I got to USA Today and they let me continue that and everything. So hopefully we will. Yeah, it's always a nice way to end the year, at least. And also, not for nothing too, it's a reminder that, we hear all the hate, we hear all the chatter and the meanness and all that sort of stuff. But despite it all, I do still truly believe that there are way more good people out there, than unhinged people. And even if they disagree, and even if they, have some beliefs, political or otherwise, that I don't, align with, you will still see people who will, when they see someone having a hard time, they will do what they can to try to help and stuff. And that is a good thing. I mean, because if we don't stay somewhat anchored to a belief that there's general goodness, right, then we're really screwed. So so I do like to do that, and USA Today has been cool about it, and so hopefully we'll come around again.
I love it. I look forward to anything I can do to help. As always, I'll definitely push it out to our incredible family. The Midas Touch family especially is incredibly supportive, and it's funny what you say about the goodness. I've had like a couple of, I always have negative comments in the show, and I people don't realize that I go into the replies. I'm a glutton for punishment, and the lovely thing about being a Midas Touch network is there's very few really horrible. It's just a really lovely place to be, and somebody recently said something like, the anchor of this show is just kind of nuts, right? Or something. It was pretty funny, and I said, name's Fred, good to meet you, and the person, instead of getting mad about it, I kind of laughed about it, but he came back with the most lovely note, like, hey dude, I'm so sorry, I just had a really bad morning. I'm a big fan of your work. I'm like, bro, I get it. I've had, you weren't inaccurate. I am kind of crazy. So, you're right. We have our disagreements and we can say things. And if you take it, I've had so many conversations. Like, I had a young man during the heat of those things send me the most nasty. And he was a kid, like 20 or 18, nastiest Facebook message. And I said, okay, hold on, dude. You're a kid. Where are you getting this from? And I did. I said, you're just like 18 or 19. You're in high school, right? And he was. Well, I just hate what you stand for. Like, well, what is it that you hate? And we literally had the most, honest to God, in the end, we had this wonderful exchange. And my partner thought I was crazy at the time, but I was like, we have to have these conversations. We're going to have to figure it out that you and I are not these cartoon personas. We are humans, that we have feelings, we get hurt, and so do our opponents sometimes. That's why I never use the term enemy. I try to stick to the old timey, my opponent, because we're still Americans. And in the end, we're going to have to figure out a way to get along. We're going to have to find a way to sit at the football field and have conversations again that don't involve Donald Trump or anything else. And so when I was circling back to the point, I love what you're doing. I love that you do that. And again, if I can help in any way, I'm happy to do so. So where can people find your witty repertoire and your award-winning writing?
I'm a opinion columnist at USA Today. So usatoday.com / Rex Huppke is pretty much where everything's warehoused. I have my Facebook page is facebook.com / Rex is a jerk, because that seemed appropriate, and
works. Just
Rex Huppke on Twitter, which I will never call anything but Twitter, and all the other Blue Sky, Holler,
Threads,
the 70,000 other social media sites that we've had to create while Elon Musk ruins Twitter.
Yes, he does. Yeah. Well, good. I'm so glad. Well, everybody's got to follow you. I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining the show. I've been wanting to have you on forever. Keep what you're doing and keep a sense of humor about it. We appreciate it.
Yeah, you too, man. Thanks for everything you do. And it's great to be able to talk to you finally and stuff.
Indeed. All right. Talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
Bye. Man, what a great conversation. You just got to laugh. That's probably the title of the episode, Matt. You just got to laugh because what else can you do? At some point, you've got to accept that we live in a crazy time, and you have to mock bullies, and you have to accept what we've said. There's real serious issues in our country right now. I'll talk about a lot, but I will say this, and I say it again and again and again. We are winning. You see people like Rex and others doing these good things, and you see the good people in our country who get it right. So it's easy to fall into despair. It's all if we believe we're losing, but I don't believe for 1 second. I believe that we're on the right side of history, and as my friend Alex Vindman wrote in his book, here right matters. It's right here. Here right matters, and I believe still that here right matters, and that will win. We will win because we're doing the right thing, and It'll take some time. It'll be a battle, and we're in the middle of it, but we'll get there. Man, as you know, I'm the national chairman of the Forgotten Democrats. We've had some really wonderful town halls recently. I'd love you to check out the Forgotten Democrats, forgottendemocrats.org. What we're doing is very simple. We're raising money through your monthly donations where you actually join the organization. Now, look, this isn't like your typical where you just give a donation and they forget about you. The reason we use the model we do, where you donate monthly a small amount, hopefully, or if a big amount would be great, is because you're actually become a member of the community. You'll have exclusive access to, we'll have town halls just for members. We'll have opportunities for members to participate in supporting our candidates, and the money goes directly to candidates. It's not like other where we just like write a small check for $3,300. No, because of our FEC earmark, we actually distribute this money in large amounts. And until your specific money goes to one candidate to the tune of a max out, otherwise it's maybe you're giving $1 a month to one candidate spread across a dozen or more candidates. It's a very unique model. There's nothing else like it at the national level, and I would love you to check it out. It says forgottendemocrats.org. I'm very proud to be the national chairman and be part of that. As always, our goal here, oh, by the way, I forgot, an easy way to join, almost forgot, Matt, is just text Fred to 33777. That's 33777. Just text Fred. You join our email list. You find out what we're doing. Super, super, super easy. In the meantime, please join us. Our Substack community is growing. It's fpwellman@substack.com, as well as all the places you can find us. FP Wellman Official on Threads, which is growing. I'm loving Threads. I got a desktop app now. I'm using it. I've got FP Wellman Official on Instagram. I'm having a lot of fun there as well. I hope you join us there. FP Wellman, I'm still on Twitter. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. It's still where a lot of my friends and frankly our foils exist as well. I can't beat up on Jenna Ellis anywhere else, and so I'm still with Threads or Twitter. You'll find On Democracy Pod at the On Democracy Pod YouTube channel, as well as on Twitter. And of course, we would love for you to go to Apple or Spotify, download us audibly, leave a like, leave a review. We love hearing from you. And as always, if you're a Midas Touch Mighty, the Midas Mighty, and you're watching the show on Friday night or over the weekend or anytime you're watching, please leave a comment. I try to wade in. I usually stay up on Friday night and watch the show as it rolls out and reply to your comments as they're rolling. So say hi and be sure to join us whenever you can. Thank you to our great sponsors this week, BetterHelp and I'll tell you right now, I believe in therapy. I think BetterHelp's a great model. That's where I started, was online therapy. It's a great place to get comfortable with being comfortable with therapy and having it easy and accessible. So please check out BetterHelp. I would love you to check out Sugar and Spruce. Sugar and Spruce is a lovely small business company located in Fredericksburg, Virginia. It makes handmade bath products, most by hand, women-owned, family-owned, and frankly, you might as well know it. It's my family. It's my daughter, my ex-wife, and they run that thing, and it's a lovely little business that I used to sell soap at. So if you could check them out at sugarandspruce.com, that'd be great. As well, all of our other sponsors that join us each week. So thank you for everything you do. As always, our friends at Vi Media, our home here at Half Coast Studios in beautiful Creve Coeur, Missouri, are the great digital marketing firm you can trust. So with setting all that, be sure to join us every week. Be sure to join the Midas Touch Network so you can see when I do my little hot takes and videos. I got a new one coming out today. We'd love you to watch those. We've hit, I didn't tell Matt. By the way, guys, you're here to hear the news. We hit 15 million views this week, Matt. 15 million views in 4 months. 15 million views in 4 months. Thanks to the Midas Mighty on the Midas Touch Network. It's such a thrill and an honor. I can't thank my friends, Brett, Jordy, and Ben, for letting me be part of their family, be a part of the Midas Touch family, and all my fellow creators. It's a great place to be. Having said that, thanks for joining the show. We will see you next week.